All right. Finna get us a few more minutes. Maybe just gonna start. Yeah. And then we're gonna start. Because I might not even be on here long. For real, for real. Once we hit two people, I'm just gonna go and take it from there. By the way, for the people that's gonna come on later on, I guess, currently on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. So yeah, in like 4 minutes, I'm just gonna start going, and then whoever happens to stumble upon this, they can just watch it later, and hopefully they'll be inspired or something. But yeah, we definitely about to get this thing moving in a few minutes. If you hear my son, don't mind him. He's probably gonna be knocking, trying to play on his drum pads and all that. So don't mind him. He'll probably be here in a little bit. So just a warning. Hmm. Okay, so I'll just go now. Hey guys, it's me, Brandon, aka B Dot Drums, aka B, aka He's Just Churchy. I'm back with another installment, weekly installment of something I like to call Musician Sabbath Mondays, hosted by me. Hope everybody's doing well. Let me see. Hi, I'm good. I'm doing well. How are you? How are you? It's good to see people like when they respond or when they reach out. That's dope. Um, but yeah, I hope everybody's weekend was good. Everybody's Monday was good. I feel like to like the average 9 to 5er, like Mondays are like the days you gotta like pull yourself together and kind of just like get yourself in the mind frame that it's another week. Even though like the days be moving mad fast, it's just still like Mondays are very blah, especially if you go to church and you one of those people that go to church and be in church all day, or you church real hard on that one service. You just kind of you're like blah. Like I wish I can take off today. Like I wish for everybody that goes to church on Sunday, I wish that we could just have off. That's low key the mindset sometimes. But yeah, my weekend was good. I was kind of excited to share about my weekend because I really ended up enjoying it. I was very about it for some reasons, and I'll get to that at the end. But um, I went actually. Let's see, Friday. I don't think I had anything to do Friday. I think Friday. Yeah, I think Friday was chill. Saturday I went to my home church's convocation. They had convocation at the DoubleTree by Hilton. For those of you that live in Delaware, by like Concord Mall, they had a couple of services there. So I did that. I went there. Me and Braden went. I took my son. You know, like most of the church, they know me, but they hadn't seen me in a while. And I know my mom talks a lot about Braden, so I took him with me. Of course, he wanted to play drums and he wanted to, you know, he wanted to be where the band was, and he got his chance. He ended up going to the drums and playing drums, at the end, and actually kept a steady beat. Like my son he be getting it in. All them YouTube videos and him watching me play, like he was playing like he knew what he was doing. You know what I mean? So that was cool. Service was good. Bishop Parham preached. He's great. Um, it was church in there. First of all, they was shouting when I got in there. You know what I mean? We was a little late getting there, but it was very much church. Like I could hear from the outside, like they was churching. Um, so yeah, shout out to the band. Let's see, they had Danielle on bass. They had my boy Famir on drums. I can't remember Kayla's husband's name. I cannot remember for some reason. I should have looked it up. But he was on keys, and then you had Dane on organ. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, I haven't played with Dane musically in a minute, but one thing about Dane, he's gonna church you. Like that's what I mean. They was going to like 153, but they was bucking and dancing, what I mean, at that 153 for like a minute. Even after I got there, like they was going for a minute. So it was just, I'm not gonna lie, like it felt good to be home. People saying they ain't recognize me at first, and people saying, I didn't even know who you were. Like yeah, I had not been there in that long. And I think the last time I was there, it was probably like last year. Like I was there last year. It was me and Tyra. And I think, matter of fact, Brayden wasn't even born. Like that's how long ago that was. And even then, like it's convocation. So mad people was there more than usual. So the people that weren't there that Sunday that me and Tyra went to the church, like the actual church building, they were there when they were at the hotel on Saturday. So it was cool. I'm not gonna lie, I was definitely thinking about leaving early because I wasn't sure how Brandon was gonna be, because it seemed like the later he stay up, he be ready to jump, through walls and climb up walls. But we ended up staying to the end. He met my Bishop Pitts. Um it was cool. It was cool. Like I said, most people had not seen me in a while, so it was one of the things where it's like it just at first I was like really eerie because I hadn't been there in so long. So many people I haven't really seen, giving out hugs left and right. So they come from, like this is legit like where I come from as far as like church upbringing, you know, being introduced to God at an early age. Like that was like that's my found like those are my roots. So it was good to be home. Um, it was good. Again, it wasn't, I didn't think it was gonna be a bad experience, but I definitely was like very nervous, almost as if like I hadn't seen them in a while because it really hadn't been that long since I've seen them. So, so it was cool. It was cool. Of course, as soon as I got there, my mom like grabbed him immediately. Like I think when I got there, my mom probably was told by somebody that I had walked in, and she probably saw me with Braden and was like, "Okay, I'll take him." So my mom took him and went on a whole other side of the room. Like my mom loves her grandbaby. Like that's her heart. She'll do anything for him, buy him clothes all the time. Like she'll do all that. So yeah, that was my weekend. And of course, church on Saturday. It was cool. Um, it was the men's Sunday at the church I play at Ezon Fair Baptist Church. So the men's praise team pretty much did the music, the singing, and all that for that service. And we actually ended up getting out early. So I feel like my son is here. But yeah, so that was pretty much that was that. Sunday was cool. It's always fun playing with the guys. I've recorded mad videos that, of course, my scary behind was skeptical in watching. I haven't seen any of my videos yet, so probably tomorrow I'll probably start looking at them, skimming through them, and that'll be that. Um, yeah. So tonight, another personal topic. We're gonna be talking about comparisons. Comparisons. Like that's. I know for me personally, I've struggled with that for the longest. Like I'm really now kind of like growing into my own, especially as a musician. This is called Musician Sabbath Monday. So like a lot of it has come from like me dealing with comparisons as a musician, you know, and just want to talk about that because I feel like dealing with that, it helped me grow to what I'm becoming now. But there was definitely a point where like comparisons like stunted my growth. Um, that's why, I think in one of my past episodes, I was talking, ranting and raving about like just knowing who you are because, when you don't know who you are, you begin to like search like out other things, other people, and other things about who you are and what you might become and what you're there for. Like you'll be looking for your purpose within everything but yourself. So, let me see. I have any stories about comparisons? Um, I think that there was just a stretch in my life where, hmm, especially as a musician, I pretty much I looked too much into YouTube. Like when I was coming up drumming, like YouTube wasn't the YouTube it is now. Like YouTube really wasn't seen as much as like a social media outlet. So it wasn't about the comments. It wasn't about, you know, people trolling and all that stuff like that. Like YouTube used to be just about videos, like just videos, watching videos. You know what I mean? If you wanted to, watch your favorite drummer or look at footage from like a shed or a clinic or something like that, you would type in that artist or that musician's name in the search box and it would just come up and you just watching videos all the time. So I think there was a point in my drumming, don't want to say career, or my time like really coming up as a musician, I really didn't know who I was. Now, mind you, this will make sense because as I said in another episode, coming up in the church that I went to, we weren't the church that had, all the top musicians, and we weren't that church that had all the concerts, at the church, and all the top groups from all over came to the church to have concerts, and like that wasn't us. So I really wasn't around like certain musicians that I like look up to now. You know what I mean? Like some of my favorite musicians, Gabe Bennett, Jeremy Wimbush, Jamal Moore, CJ Thompson, like guys like that were like not even anywhere near Delaware. Like those guys are from outside of Delaware. Like they're not even from the tri-state area of Delaware or whatever. Um, I used to like Spanky a lot too. Not used to, but I listened to a lot of Spanky at first. But outside of him, like I didn't know any like a lot of drummers coming up. So that on top of me not really knowing who I was as a musician, like I would kind of like it also helped me to learn, but I also like kind of mimicked what they did. You know what I mean? Like, but it was kind of to a fault too, because it's almost like I did it so much that I was trying to be them. Like it was getting kind of bad. And like I said, not that like now it wasn't on some type of time where it's like, okay, you trying to look like them too. Matter of fact, never mind. I'm lying. Actually, I did. I'm not gonna lie. Like, especially when this is when like gospel recording DVDs were a thing. Like when you actually like when you bought the hard copies, like during that time, I was trying to dress like certain drummers. Like when Marvin Sapp's Thirsty album came out, that album I got the CD and the DVD. And for me, I'm thinking like, and it's so weird though, because like I'm younger and everybody was kind of on the whole like GA victory get up Kingdom University thing. But for me, I thought that Calvin Rogers playing with a white button up with a sweater vest, I thought that was cool. I thought that was cool. I'm not gonna lie. So there was definitely times where like I was like too locked in, you know what I mean, as far as like my favorite drummers. And it was, not even knowing it was really hurt me because especially with today's time with social media, like first of all, with social media, you really see like you are not the only one, which is even more reason why like you have to um not compare yourself because there's always going to be somebody on the come up. Social media literally shows you that. There's always some dope musician on whatever instrument it is, even if it's with singers. Like there's always going to be like someone up and coming. And it don't even have to be like, musicians or singers. It could be a whole church. You know what I mean? Like I said before, I said in another episode, New Zion Temple, they still have church the same way they did during the pandemic. But guess what? At some point, the next church, the next dope church pops up, goes viral. So that's exactly why, like, again, like, comparison, Jonathan McReynolds said it the best, like, it kills because it'll cause you to dilute what's inside of you. Like, it'll cause you to to dismiss what makes you you. You know what I mean? Because if it's one thing that I've realized is that like you can have 20 other drummers, 20 other cooks, 20 other singers, but you got to make sure that you're confident in what you can bring to the table. You know what I mean? Because if you're not secure in that, all it will take is you looking at the next viral drummer, the next viral musician, the next viral artist, and you'll be in your head like you'll legit be you're questioning like where you are in your life because you see somebody else on the come up. Especially, when okay, you may see them going viral, but you don't know what they've been through, for them to get where they are now. Like even, thinking about Kurt Franklin's journey when he put that mini documentary about like him finding his pops, right? People, I'm sure there's somebody somewhere that's like, man, I wish I had like Kirk. I wish I had the hits and all that stuff. But let's say it like this. Would you be willing to go through what he's gone through, not having a dad, even though his dad lived like maybe 30, 45 minutes away from him? Like, bro, that's a harsh reality to have to live with. And it's like I've heard Kurt Franklin talk about it, and it's almost as if like music and the songwriting is all he had. That's all he had. He wasn't close with his mom, wasn't close with his dad. He said he was adopted by some old lady named Gertrude. Like like that's why you also have to think about that when you compare yourself. You got to think about that. Like, am I willing to go through with whatever they're going through, like whatever they had to do to get here? Some people, they use their gifts as a getaway. They're not using their gifts to be famous. Like they're not using their gift to, get a record deal. Some people use their gifts because that's all they had because they don't have a mom and a dad, or because they don't have any friends, or because they were, that was their getaway for, when they were abused or when like, you know what I mean? So that's one question I always thought about, even when I begin to like even now, like when I would compare myself or start to see a post and be like, dang, I wish that was me. It's like, okay, would you really, if you really knew where that person came from, what they had to deal with, what they probably still struggle with, would you be strong enough to take on whatever they're taking on? Like, would you be able to really take on abandonment the way they have, rejection the way they have, having to, figure out life, without having a roadmap or without someone giving you direction, or you know what I mean? Like, I feel like that's one thing that you always have to think about, because hold on, y'all, I'm thirsty. That's one thing you have to always consider. You know what I mean? And again, I know for me, I think that I got I think okay, and I'll say this too, because a lot of things about my life kind of like shifted a little bit after I left my home church. Um, like, I think that part one of it was like actually being um exposed to other musicians in other churches outside of where I came from. Like, I think that what happened was, once I left what my home church would be considered home, like, I needed to have my horizons broadened. Like, I needed to see that, like, okay, you don't have to play one style to be accepted. Like, you don't have to, you know, play like who you saw on YouTube. Like, you can, the person you're watching on YouTube, they're killing, but they're also themselves. The way they dressing, like, that's them. Like, they're good with how they are. Like, that's something that they legit, you know what I mean? Like, they had their own style. You know, you can't look at them and be like, I can tell they're trying to be like, no, 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 no. So that's one thing I had to really like learn. And it was, like I said, it was a process, because, like I said, like, coming from where I come from, I didn't really have a lot of people to look up to musically. And I'll say, especially because the only people I had to really look up to for real, coming up, was whatever drummer was playing at the time at my home church. And they weren't necessarily famous or what we would consider viral now, but that's all I had to look up to. Other than that, and that's not disrespect to them, because I love all of them. And again, they inspire me to really be playing. Like, they're the reason why I will come to church with drumsticks, just ready to air drum my life away, all service long. Like, they're the reasons why. But I'm talking about as far as like looking up to, as far as like drummers who played on people's albums, and drummers, that had a bunch of studio sessions lined up, and like, I didn't have that growing up. I didn't have that surrounding. Or I didn't have like, I wasn't born into a family of musicians. Cause let's be honest, a lot of cats, they get nurtured just off the fact that, like, they have a cousin, a brother, siblings, what have you. They have parents that come from like musical stock, so it's in them regardless. You feel me? But you know, just to say, like, I had to make a transition. Like, it was a hard transition, because after I left my home church, like, I didn't know what myself was. Like, I didn't know what it was like to play like me. On top of the fact that, like, I didn't know how to play, you know, outside of how I played at my home church, because that's all I knew. All I knew was playing at my home church. Like, and maybe it was just me because I wasn't really like exposed. But back when I was coming up and I was playing, I didn't know too much about gigging, and like, I was doing it, but I really, again, some of the places I was playing at, it wasn't filled with the room of musicians and a bunch of recording artists and a bunch of like recording gear. Like, I didn't grow up with that. So again, because I didn't know and have those things, I was looking at other drummers and being like, dang, I wish I had that. And I'll repeat it again. Before you compare yourself, always ask, am I willing to really trade places with them? Not trade places with their now. You no, that would that's not how it works. It's almost like when you like somebody, it's like you gotta like what comes with them too. You don't get to pick who you want them to be for you. Like you have to legit be in a place where like, okay, I know this about you, I see this about you, and I now have to make a decision whether I can handle that, whether I can, manage being with someone who may be XYZ or who may have gone through like, you know what I mean? So again, before you compare yourself, always ask like, yo, am I really willing to go through all that they went through to get where they are? And like I said, Kurt Franklin's a perfect example because, like I said, people may see it and be like, man, he got all them hits and all that stuff. But it's like some of that stuff, like some people use their gifts as a coping mechanism. Some people wrote music, recorded music, not because they just was bored and wanted to do it. Nah, it's because, some of them may have been in an abusive relationship, or they may be in a position where like they literally didn't have nothing. You know what I mean? They didn't have enough to really, to where they didn't have to take music seriously. You know what I mean? Because trust me, I'm pretty much sure, by 99% sure, that if Kurt Franklin had his mom and dad in his life, I feel like music for him would have probably been different. The music would have sounded different. Cause for real, music hit different when it's laced with desperation. I'm not gonna lie. A lot of music, especially from back in the day, I feel like it hit different because of the disappointment they've experienced, or because of the abandonment they experienced, or because of the people that came and went out of their life, and you know what I mean. And it's crazy. It's always like that. It's like the best albums be coming out of people that be going through stuff. Like, like I said, my favorite sidebar, but like my favorite album by Chris Brown is Graffiti, and that was around the time where him and the Rihanna thing had happened. Like that's like, ain't that crazy? Like that happened, and then he ends up putting out that album, but to me, again, which to me is my favorite one. I think that's his best one as far as like the full body of work, not just the singles. I'm thinking like I could listen to that joint the whole way through and just like listen to it and not skip nothing. So yeah, comparisons. And the funny thing is, a friend of mine, at one point when I was really going through like the whole thing of like comparing myself and wishing I was, somebody else, and wishing I was be able to get opportunities like somebody else, like she put me onto the song actually called Comparison Kills by Jonathan McReynolds. And it's one of them songs where like it's about the words. And I think the song, even musically, there was only like an acoustic guitar. That was it. But that's a good thing because I think that, you know, that means that you need to hear the words more than anything else. The guitar sounds good, like it sounds great, but that's one of them songs where like you need to actually hear the words. Like let the words like settle in your spirit so that way, you know what I mean, you don't be distracted by anything else. Cause I feel like with some songs, they be hot, but sometimes you can be thrown off by the music. Not because the music sounds bad, but because like, okay, they killing, but you ain't even really peeping the message though. So like for me, I just think that, again, comparing yourself, while you do that, you're also stunting your own growth because who you compare yourself to, I feel like you make them the bar, you make them the ceiling for yourself. And like I said before, there's always somebody better. There's always somebody that can do more, that has more, that's more gifted, or that may be more knowledgeable, or they may be they may have more chops in their arsenal, or they may have more connection, or they may have more relationships with other like stuff like that. So that's one thing that I also had to like realize too, that when you make a certain musician like the standard for you to where like, okay, you're not even trying to be better at being you, I think that can be a problem too. Because I ain't gonna lie, when I first started, like, and it's like I said, I put this on my status once, but before when I first started getting into drumming and knowing who other drummers were, my cousins would put me on to they put me on to Eddie Hayward back when he played for James Hall, and they put me on to Spanky, George McCurdy, and this is back when like Ty Tribbett and them was like really like they was them. Um, at one point, I made Spanky like the ceiling for me. You know what I mean? And again, Spanky's a monster. Like Spanky's a beast. But I think that I stunted my own growth, thinking like, okay, this is who I need to be like. Nah. And I think again, like I said before, comparing can stunt your growth because sometimes comparing yourself can also mean that you're not really sure or confident in who you are. You're comparing yourself constantly because you wish you were somebody else, which honestly, to be honest, it could be a slap in the face to God Himself because, you know, the Bible does say, yes, sir. Hold on, y'all. I'm busy. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, y'all. That's my son, like I said before. But yeah, I forgot what I was saying. Yes. Why you? But yeah, like I was saying, um, when you compare yourself, you are certainly kind of dismissing what's inside of you. What makes you different? What makes you stand out? What makes people, or what would make people gravitate towards you? Um, I think a lot of times, again, oh, I was saying, okay, thank you. I was actually saying that when you dismiss who you are and what's inside of you, it's kind of it's kind of a smear on God because the Bible does say that like we're made in His image and His likeness, right? So you wishing you were somebody else is almost like you saying, "Well, I know God made me X, Y, and Z, but I don't like that." You know what I mean? It comes off as like, "Hey, I know God made me this way, but I think He might have made a mistake." Like that could be really interpreted as that because, again, there's something inside of you that that's gonna draw people to your gift, to God. You know what I mean? And I think that you know we don't think about it like that. We just think about it as like, oh man, I wish if I had that opportunity. You don't know what that person did to even get that opportunity. Whether it was something upright, or whether it was something even that was you know not right. You know what I mean? Like you don't know these people a lot of times from a can of paint, and you wishing you had what they had. That's why I've learned to like be content in how God made me, because at the end of the day, who and what is called to you will come to you. But I think that a lot of preachers say like God doesn't bless who you pretend to be. You know what I mean? And a lot of times it's crazy because some people that we compare ourselves to and wish we had the opportunities as and wish we could be like, we don't even know we may not even know who they are outside of their gift. It's mad rich people, it's mad successful people out here who be ready to end it all. They be ready to commit suicide. Oh, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that on here, but they be ready to, you know what I mean, end it all. You know what I mean? And you thinking, oh, they always they wear the nicest things, and they worth $1 million, and they always at the top, the top stores and all that stuff like that. But you have no idea, like, when they're not posting their picture online, we're not advertising their business and all that. You don't even know that they going through it. You feel me? So again, comparing, the other side of your comparison and the other side of who you're comparing yourself to, you have no idea what they suffer with or what they have to go through. You know what I mean? Like, people compare themselves to celebrities all the time, but it's like you don't know what they go through when it's just them at home. Because at some point they don't live on the red carpet. They don't live at New York Fashion Week. They don't live, at the event that they go to. You know what I mean? Like, again, naturally, of course, it's a whole different story when they're at home by themselves. It's a whole different story when they're in the quiet of their home and it's just them and their thoughts. You don't know what they think about. You don't know what the things that they have, on their mind when it's just them. And you thinking they just, they lit, you know what I mean? They ain't got nothing going on for they got everything they want in life, but that's what you see. You feel me? So again, like comparing, it shows you a lot about yourself as well. And again, we don't see it like that because we're just like, wow, they got a lot of stuff. They got this, they got that. They got this opportunity. They know this person. They got this connection. But again, you don't even know, you know, on the other side of that, they might not even have what you think they have. Real talk. So, you know, again, I won't be on here long, but I think that again, comparing, and a lot of times like this too, because we do this too sometimes. It's like when you compare yourself with someone or something, you also have to make sure, okay, do I have the smarts as well? Not saying that you not smart, but it's like some stuff. It does take you like actually being educated in what you see and what you're doing. You know what I mean? Because one thing I used to do even as a musician, like one thing I would even do as a musician, it's like, okay, you're comparing yourself to another musician, but they went to school for what they do as well. Like if we're gonna compare, okay, let's compare then. Do you have the education they have? Do you have the experience they have? Do you have the the relationships they have? Because some stuff it's like, okay, you're comparing yourself to that person, but sometimes you have to make a little list of what they do, what you're not doing. Okay, they're networking, they on their grind, they making themselves visible. Yeah, you dope, but the difference between you and that musician or that viral musician is not even your skill level. It's the fact that nobody knows who you are. It's that nobody even sees you. Nobody knows that you're that killing drummer up the street. Like they don't know that. They don't know that you're that killer organist that's up the street because you just kind of be to yourself. Like you know what I mean? It's more factors to it. I think, even comparing, I don't think it's always about maybe not knowing who you are, not liking who you are, but I think it's also just a point of, okay, again, who knows who you are? Are you making yourself visible? Are you networking? Are you creating relationships? Are you building relationships? Are you going to sheds? Are you going to, musical showcases? Are you even as simple stuff as like a Google search, you know, you see a certain you see a certain chop or you see a certain video, and you might be thinking like, yo, how are they doing that? Even I'm not gonna lie, I can't read music. I can't read music, and for those who want to do that, even doing simple stuff like that, googling how to read music, YouTube it. Listen, these days, YouTube is pretty much like Google. I think Google brought YouTube, but you know what I mean? Like stuff like that, like the information is not far away. Like you can literally type it in Google search. Like that's not, you know what I mean? So even that side of it too, where like you're comparing yourself, but you have to see like, okay, what are they doing that I may not be doing? I'm not trying to be like them, but I would like to be in a position, in the same position they're in, to where like I can have that type of gig or that type of connection with people, with other musicians. Like, you gotta think about it like that too. I mean, I say it again, like it may not always be about you wanting to be like them or you want to sound like them, but sometimes they may have a different grind than you. They may have a different hunger. You know what I mean? Like sometimes the difference between the lesser talented musician and the more talented musician is, the more talented musician, they may act like they already got it when they ain't been nowhere. Versus the musician that may not have what the musician that's a beast has, but they got to grind. They got a hunger. They got a hunger for it. You know what I mean? Like I think that, again, some things you got to make sure you straighten. You know what I mean? Because again, you can wish you was like somebody all you want, but if you ain't putting in the work, if you're not willing to go through certain things, it's not going to happen. Like even what I'm doing now, like I can watch all the Kai Cenat, Duke Dennis. I can see all the, you know, I can see all of the content creator streams all I want. I can look at that stuff all day. But if it's something that I want to do, you're gonna have to really step your grind up. You're gonna have to really, you know, you're gonna have to develop a hunger and develop, you know, a wanting and a yearning to want to learn whatever you have to learn to be in certain spaces. You know what I mean? Like I feel like that's something that people hear or they may know this, but they take it lightly. You know what I mean? It's like okay, you know you watch a lot of cooking videos and you watch a lot of plumbing videos and electrician videos, but it's like at some point if you want to do that, you got to be willing to really even you know go through certain things. You know what I mean? You got to be willing to go through certain hurdles, because you may struggle a little bit. It may feel like you ain't getting nowhere. It's almost like when you grow your hair, right? You want your hair to be a certain length, but at the same time, you're not willing to go through what they call the ugly stage, where it's gonna feel like you've had a mini afro for like 5 years. Real rap. It's gonna feel like you didn't had a mini afro of the same length. It's gonna feel like that for a minute. You know what I mean? And sometimes it's like you just gotta keep going. You gotta put your head down and work. You know what I mean? Don't compare yourself so much that you get impatient in your own journey. Because trust me, I'm not gonna lie. If I can really be transparent for real, for the past few weeks, I really struggled about whether I want to even like do this. Because like I'm so busy thinking about what I want to do with this on top of the people that I watch and study that do this, then I start thinking too much of it. Because now I'm like, dang, like when I'm on here, I only got a certain amount of people. Like, listen, that's where comparing gets you in trouble because again, comparing will make you feel like, okay, this ain't going fast enough. Like, nah. Sometimes it's just that you have to keep going. You know what I mean? I don't know about nobody else, but I thank God for the ugly stages. And I didn't talk about hair growth. I'm talking about just period because I think the ugly stage of anything, it proves how serious you are. It proves how bad do you want it. You know what I mean? It really shows and it tests you. Okay, you said you want to do this. You said you want that. You said you want to be able to do this from doing this, but how you are in the ugly stage, that makes the difference right there. Because if you're going to compare, a lot of times again, that's what separates the people who actually want it and the people who are actually brave enough to go after it. And that's real talk. Because the people who go after it, they're gonna commit to it. The people that's just thinking about doing it and all they doing is thinking about how they want it to go, and they're not really willing to really like go through the ugly stage of it. Nah, that ugly stage is gonna scare them away. That ugly stage is gonna only make them think about doing it. The ugly stage is gonna only make them, dream about it. And then, when they come back to themselves, it's like, nah, I can't do that. Nah, nah. But no, like, don't be afraid of the ugly stage. If I can encourage somebody real quick, don't be afraid of the ugly stage. If you don't remember nothing else, for whoever looks at this later on, or you come in here and you hear this right now, like, don't be afraid of the ugly stage. Because for real, the ugly stage is like the trying period. It's almost like when you get a new job, right? And they got that 60 or 90-day thing. That's pretty much like, because in some jobs, that 90-day thing, like they don't want you calling out. You can't call out. You can't be trying to like, you can't be talking about you ran late and all that stuff. Like, nah, like that's not, because also that 90-day period, from another perspective, it's also a way of you figuring out whether you really want to do this job or not. Like when guys, even at my job, when guys come and go, I'm not gonna lie. I always give them when they start, acting up. I give them at least 30 days because I'd be like, they got to make sure they want this. They're, what I mean. Like you got to really make sure, like, okay, this is what you want to do. You know what I mean? And I think again, the comparison between sometimes two talented people is who's willing to do what it takes. Like I said, person A is comparing their self to person B, but comparison A ain't really ready or willing to put the work in. Person B, they going after it. That's how they got where they are. They went after it. They're not overly focused on what can go wrong or how something's gonna make them look. They're not just always thinking about, what if it's not right? Like, nah. You know what I mean? And I can't remember the lyrics. I'm trying to look up the lyrics real quick. Cause comparison kills. Like that song, like really blessed me. Like when I was, in a place where it's like, bruh, I'm just everything. I'm asking why for everything. Like why? How come I don't have this? How come I can like? You know what I mean? I can't remember the lyrics. Let's see. You know what I mean? Yeah. So okay, cool. I'm looking up the lyrics right now. Right. I'm gonna try to paraphrase it, but it does say like in one of the lines where, you know, comparison pretty much will make you chase something that you're not supposed to have. In a nutshell, like comparisons will also cause you to want something that's not even for you. You know what I mean? It'll have you like, I don't really want that because of what I see it do for that person, I want that only because I think I'm gonna get the same result as that person. Like that's, you know what I mean? Comparisons will have you delusional, bruh. Comparisons will have you thinking that you need what somebody else got. You know what I mean? Which is why, even in today's world, it's like you really have to make sure that what you're doing is good for you because what worked for them may not work for you. You know what I mean? It's almost like it's like somebody who's a great songwriter, right? And they have to be humble enough to compare and realize that, hey, I think this song may come off better if this person wrote it compared to me. You know what I mean? Like I always hear Neo, they always ask when he's on a stream or whatever platform he's on, they've asked him mad times about like irreplaceable, you know what I mean? How he was thinking about it, like the way he wrote the song, he's like, okay, I could sing the song, but the way I've written it, it sounds better if a woman sings it. It's a great song. Lyrics are dope. Music is dope, but you also have to be humble. It takes humility as well to know and realize, hey, this song is the bomb. This song is mad dope, but this song isn't for me to sing. This sounds better when a woman sings it. And he ended up being right because Beyonce smashed. Like Beyonce bodied that joint. You feel me? So it's one of them things where it's like, you know, comparing yourself and getting away from that cycle of comparison, it also takes humility. It also takes you realizing that maybe I'm not meant to have what they have, or maybe I'm not meant to have what they have in the way that they got it. Maybe I'm not meant to know that person. Maybe I'm not known to have a personal connection with that person. Real talk. You know what I mean? And I think that again, you know, like the lyrics say, comparison will have you chasing something that's not meant to be chased. You chasing something that ain't even meant for you, but because you want something that somebody else has and you low key envy that person for having it, it's like you're willing to lose yourself. You're willing to put yourself in a situation where you wouldn't be able to get out on your own. Seriously. And I think again, a lot of times people don't think about it that way. Like, it's nice to be inspired. It's nice to, it's nice to aspire for things. Like it's nice to wanna have success in certain areas and want to be successful, but you got to be confident in your own journey. Because again, for one, the person that you're looking up to, you don't know what their journey was like. And I'll see what I said in the beginning again. Like some people, they used their gift, because they had to use that to cope with abuse or to cope with being abused, or I don't want, I can't say certain words on, you know, these platforms, but I mean, like you don't know what they went through. You don't know what side they came out of or where they came from to where they got to where they are now. And again, I think to get out of comparing, you have to be also in a place of humility. It has to come from a place of humility because, you know, you'll think that, you can do certain things. And it's like, no, that person that you're comparing yourself to, they had to do X, Y, and Z. They had to learn X, Y. They had to go through X, Y, and Z. And it's stuff sometimes that, like, again, you're not even prepared to go through. You're not prepared to make that sacrifice. You're not prepared to, you know, you're not prepared for the embarrassment. You're not prepared for the rejection. You're not ready to have to hear the amount of no's that person had to hear in order for them just to get to that one yes. And we talked about rejection before. If all it takes is somebody rejecting you, then you may not be ready for what you think you're ready for. Because the person that you want to be like, they got rejected mad times. They got abandoned mad times. But you don't know that because they don't tell that part. They don't show that part. But again, it's one of them things. Before you compare yourself, you got to make sure that, you know, if you don't know their story, you'll think it's all cool and gravy, but nah, like, yeah, they've gotten there. Yes, they are where they are now, but at the same time, it's like, okay, you want that, but do you really want to know? Forget going through it. Do you even want to know what they had to go through for that? Again, do you want to even have to go through the process, the ugly stage of being told no? Because some of those people that you look up to, some of those people had to go through somebody telling them that their idea would be better if they did it the way somebody else did it. Are you ready for that? Like, are you ready for somebody to tell you that your idea is whack or it's not good enough because, you know, it ain't come off like somebody else's idea? Like, yo. And like I said, I don't know if I said this or not before, but in a way, even with comparisons will also cause you to only go after what's currently popping. It'll only cause you to go after whatever's going viral. Okay, so after that goes out for about a week, okay, you're gonna be wondering, okay, what's the next thing? Seriously, for real, it be like that. And again, you'll mess around and you will lose yourself because you're in a whirlwind of trying to figure out who you are. For real. Because even now, as a musician, what I can like really honestly say is like I admire a lot of drummers, but I still am committed to being me. You know what I mean? Because also this point as well. Thanks. Um, Comparison will also cause you to, you know, again, reject who you are. Because all you'll do is look for whatever's popping right now. And it'll almost be as if it's like, okay, if it's not approved by these people, I gotta look for the next person. Who do they like? Who do they love? Maybe I'll just do what they do. Like, nah. I believe that with our purpose in life, there are a remnant. That sounds churchy, but it's like a group of people that we're called to. We are not going to be called to the same people. They're going to be preachers, evangelists, deacons, ushers, musicians. We're not going to all be called to the same kind of people. Some people ain't called to the hood people. Some people aren't called to minister to people who went through abuse. Everybody's not going to be called to people who are, in high places corporately. And I think, again, you'll realize that when you stop comparing yourself. You'll realize that when you realize that, okay, this is where I thrive. What they got is cool. More respect to them. It's dope that they had that kind of influence up there, but I gotta make sure that I'm reaching who I gotta reach. You know what I mean? And again, I think that that's not really thought of because in today's world, it's just like influence as many people as possible, no matter what you got to do. But you may not be always meant to get it like they got it. You may not always be meant to know whoever they know or get the same opportunities that they have. My bad if I'm talking fast. I just did it again. But like that's one of them things. And another thing, you know what I mean? Like I keep saying before, you got to make sure. And for those of you who you say it in your Christian or whatever, because this ain't just for Christians, it's for everybody. But for those of you who pray to Jesus, you got to really go to him about your purpose because your comparison will deceive you in thinking that your calling or your purpose is tied to something else that you're inspired by. And the whole time, God be like, that's not where I'm sending you. That's not what I'm trying to do for you. That's not what I'm trying to, that's not who and what I'm showing you. I'm glad of my ugly stage because again, it taught me to really not even to be deep, but to really rely on God. Because for real, if I didn't have God in my life, I would probably still be living my life based off of who I think is going to give me approvals. I would still be living a life full of comparison, chasing stuff that's not meant for me to have anyway, chasing stuff that's not supposed to be mine, chasing relationships that's not supposed to be mine, or connections that I don't need. You know what I mean? Like I feel like that's just something to always think about. That's my thing. You got to make sure that it's something that you're either ready for, something that you're called to, or something that is just truly meant for you. You know what I mean? Because again, I feel like sometimes that we compare ourselves to people, and again, they may have had, again, most of the time, it's almost like when you gambling, right? You go to the casino, when people be like, oh my gosh, I won thousands of dollars. Trust me when I tell you, more times than not, they probably spent more than they won. Don't be fooled. A lot of people that you look up to and that you kind of envious of and you want to be like them, they've probably taken more L's than they took W's. Real talk. They probably taken a lot. Listen, for real, we could be so busy kind of comparing ourselves that again, we don't even know, you know, the who's, the what's, the when, the where. Like we don't even know. I was actually a few years ago, and I don't even know how I got so addicted to this book, but I had I or listened to an audiobook of Kevin Hart. I think it was his first book. And he was talking about his journey, trying to get into TV and television and his stand-ups and stuff like that. And he was talking about this pilot that he had shot that I guess got greenlit. And he was saying, like, I think it was the night of the premiere of the show. And just as they were about to have him in the cast of the show on, like, I guess on the stage to like introduce them and introduce the pilot or the show or whatever, they said something in his ear and was like pretty much like we pulling the show. So I said that to say this, comparing, if you were in Kevin Hart's position, um yeah, so I was saying, like, if you were in Kevin Hart's position, would you be able to stomach that? An opportunity being in your face, you're being so close to literally walking through a door of what you would think is your next blessing or your next open door to something amazing, and to be told as you're about to walk through the door, not even as you're told, but that door being shut in your face. Would you be able to deal with that? Before you compare yourself to somebody like him or about anybody of that magnitude, would you be ready to deal with that kind of rejection, with that kind of no, with that kind of, you know, with that kind of just overall like just feeling dumb. Now, what made it probably even worse for Kevin was the fact that, I hope I meet Kevin Hart. But well, it gotta happen now because I haven't said it. But he even said, I guess I think probably the part that stung him the most with that is he flew his family out with his money. The show hadn't aired or anything yet. I think it was like, again, it was the premiere. But he took his own money and flew his family out, his wife, his kids, just to almost get through the doors of what will be his next come up, and for him to be told, "Hey, we're pulling the plug on this. We're not gonna do it no more." Like, I guarantee you, anybody else would have probably been like, "I'm giving up on this whole thing. I don't want to do comedy. I don't want to act. I don't want to pitch no ideas for a pilot. I don't want to, you know." I was actually just talking about you. He would have gave up on that joint. He'd have been like, you know what, forget it. And you see where Kevin Hart is now. So my thing, like the person that maybe comparing themselves to him and wanting to be where he is, it's like, bruh, would you be able to handle that? Could you handle that kind of rejection? Can you handle that kind of no? To literally feel like you have something in your hands and then be like told, and then you're told, oh, never mind. No, never mind. We're not doing it no more. Nope. I think anybody else would have been crushed. I think Kevin Hart was crushed too, but thank goodness he wasn't crushed enough to not keep going. I think anybody else in that situation, they probably would have been like, dang, I'm okay, I don't care no more. They'd have been like, forget the industry, forget Hollywood, forget my dream. Like, but again, when you compare yourself, you gotta think about that. How would I handle it if I didn't get what I want? If I didn't get the yes that I wanted, if I didn't get the approval I wanted, if this person A, B, and C didn't applaud for me, would I still be staying with the plan? Would I still be, you know, doing what I got to do? That's all I'm saying. So yeah, Dane, I was talking about when I showed up the convocation on Saturday, and I was talking about how you was churching them at like 153 BPM, and about how y'all was churching before I walked in, and even for a while after I walked in. That's what I was talking about. Y'all was killing. I also figured you was in there because I heard a track. That track was definitely that track was cutting through. So I knew you was probably in there. But yeah. That's what I was saying. Oh my gosh. Dane, don't do too much. Please. Go ahead. I'm waiting. I can't wait to hear this. Just don't do too much because Dane, you be a lot sometimes. And we both can be extra, so I can say that. And then while you getting that ready, and then y'all sang my song, bro. Bro, that Stand and Proclaim, that thing is powerful. I think Chandler Moore wrote that. That song is powerful. That song is powerful, bro. And I'm surprised you ain't take that joint to church. Cause for real, you know, that song being like a 6/8 song, you could still take that joint to church at the end. That's the crazy part. That's my song. And the funny thing is, I was telling my wife about that song, I think either last week or a couple days before. I was talking about that song. So I love that song. Especially the chorus and then the drive. That name heals all, that name deliver like bruh. That joint slaps. I love that song. And the crazy part is when I first heard the song, I was like, like, cause for me, and we probably talking about something different, but the crazy part is I heard another church sing it, and I don't know what spin they put on it, but I was like, yo, I gotta look this up. Lo and behold, I've listened, I've heard the song before. I just didn't give it no real like no real listen. But yeah, let me see. And you know what's funny though? Never mind, I ain't gonna say that. But yeah, yeah. I feel 199 is crazy though. 199 BPM is crazy. You know what? I saw Elder Guy too, and no, I'm not gonna say it because I don't want. Nah, I ain't saying it. But other guy still got that shuffle for Jesus. I love to see her shout. I love to see her shout. But yeah, yeah. Talking about comparisons, I definitely like that's something that I really had to ask myself. Like, would you really be able to go through what they're going through to get where they are now, to where you think you want to go? Probably not. And that's just being honest. It actually did. And honestly, I listened to the service. I listened to the playback, and I'm not gonna lie. 153. It sounded slower in the room for some reason. I don't know why, but listening to it online, I was like, oh, okay, this not bad. It just sounds. I don't know why it sounds slower in the room. I don't know why. That's not a bad thing. It just sounded. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It just sound. It just gave senior choir in the room. Again, not a bad thing, but I don't know why. Like listening to it through the live stream. Yeah. And can you get them to use tracks or whatever? Like, can you do that for them? Like, even if you're not there? Because I think Chanel asked me about that before, and I was like, I don't really know much. I just know that I just got my laptop and I just make the tracks. Like I wouldn't be able to like go to the church and set it up for them. But I think that'd be good for them though. Like just I think it just enhances. I think it enhances the overall experience like of the music ministry. That's just my take though. That's just my take. But yeah, I definitely Mm-hmm. O'Shea, what's up, bro? First of all, I seen you killing on yikes, I'm not supposed to say that word either. I seen you doing your thing on I want to say Hell's Kitchen. I ain't gonna lie, bro. I only watched it because I don't watch that show. I only watched that show because I heard you was on there. And once they let you go, I was like, all right, I'm done. I ain't got nothing else to I ain't got nothing to see. Yeah. But yeah, yeah. I'm gonna text Danielle too. Cause I haven't met the new guy, but he sounds good though. He can play. Yeah, but I figured. I figured. I figured it was. Cause I feel like the challenge from that day that you had got eliminated, I feel like that John was kind of like rigged anyway. I was like, oh, she ain't got nothing to do with this. They try to make it seem like you fell off or something. But I was like, nah, nah. But yeah, yes, sir. And congratulations, bro. I know you married and everything now. Yo, the crazy part is, bro, I remember. Yes, yes, yes. That's who it is. It's Calvin. Yes, yes. No, 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 no. Not him. It's somebody else. It's a dude. He was playing. He was playing on Sunday. Sunday morning. He was playing. He was playing Oregon. He was playing Oregon on Sunday. I met him on. I met Calvin on Saturday though after service. I met him. So yeah, it's crazy because I remember I used to do like speaking of O'Shea, I used to do like some I think it's called West. What's it called? Westgate, bro? It was like Westgate. It was like a CCM type situation, and we used to have to like break down the equipment and all that stuff. I remember them days too. And O'Shea had to come pick me up from my mom's house. Yeah, Eastgate. Sorry, Eastgate. Yeah, no rehearsals, just sound check. That jump was fun. And then we used to go to Ebenezer afterwards, and O'Shea had to play there. Yeah, bro, I tried, bro. I ain't never played no CCM, bro. I'm churchy, so I was just like, oh, like I'm gonna try, like I'm gonna try to play what's on this record, and see how it goes. That was fun though. That was fun. Yep. One thing about it though, when we got to the church, them checks was ready. I love that part. And it had a little spread in the back during the sermon. Had some fruit and some little breakfast and all that. I was like, yo, I get used to this. This joint dope. But yeah, man, that was a fun little stretch. So, oh yeah, 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 yeah. And we got out on time too. And this is before COVID, so we literally got out before 2 hours. Like we was in and out. It was not nothing crazy. No drawn out announcements. It was no like crazy extra stuff going on. Like praise and worship, of course, prayer. Sheesh. Prayer, praise and worship, offering, the word also called, and then we was, you know what I mean, of course, because we had to break down stuff too. So nobody was trying to be at that joint all day long. So that was dope. That was dope. Oh dang. I thought you were just the MD. I ain't gonna hold you. I thought you were just the MD, bro. Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. But yeah. I'm about to be done in a few. I did want to say something though, because I said I was gonna mention something about forgiveness. I'm not gonna lie. I'm currently in the process of I realized that I had to forgive people, and not over some like petty stuff like gossip and tea and all that stuff like that. I'm talking about like, dang, sheesh. I wonder why. Um, just just kind of. I'm talking to my wife about this. Just forgiving people for not seeing me differently. Like it's hard to kind of, explain, because not that I'm gonna say nothing crazy, but I want to make sure that like I'm being, I'm not trying to point fingers. But um, there was a time where there were certain people, places, and things that I kind of vowed to never engage with again. And at that time, I felt like I was always going to be seen as a certain way, no matter how old I was, no matter what I did, no matter how much I grew up. And I felt like the only way, the only way I could kind of like just kind of like be done with it would be to just like leave and never come back. And like this is kind of heavy for me because like I said, like when I'm done with something, like I'm really like I really am done. Like I don't, especially because it's like, especially if every time I come around, I feel like I'm being reduced to being that person that I was. It's kind of like, okay, I ain't got time for this. Nah, nah. Mm-mm. So I'm currently in the stage of like forgiving. Like my wife, like we talked about it, and I kind of just like, okay, like you got a point. But then that thing hit me like a ton of bricks today at work. That joint hit me hard. Like, of course, it was certain things I just didn't want to do. I had no interest in it. But if I'm real with myself, I knew the reasons why. Like I knew like I didn't want to be around. You know what I mean? No hate towards nobody. No, as Dane likes to use the word disdain. But it was just like I'm good on y'all. I'm good on it. Like I'll show up. I'll show up every maybe few times. No, it's like a graduation robe actually, bro. Hold up. Nah, you good, bro. But yeah, this robe thing this is gonna be my thing. I'm telling you now, when I start coming in here, my robes be like really like lit and on point. Don't talk to me nice. Talk to me nice. But yeah, like I had no like it's no beef, but I was just like I'm pretty much done. Like I'm good on y'all. You know what I mean? But this weekend really kind of like showed me like I'm actually loved. You know what I mean? And it's not it's not anybody's fault. I just think that naturally when you see somebody or you know somebody for a long time, you kind of can't help but to see them a certain way. But I kind of felt like, okay, in my mind, it's like you got to get over it because I'm grown, and it don't feel good to be made to look like, or to made to feel like I'm still the same person from 2001. Like that's, you know what I mean? Like, so yeah, the process is going to be interesting. Now, will I be around the person, places, or things like it may be requested for me to be around like that? Probably not. Probably not. You know, especially with the way things kind of ended during a certain season of my life. Um, I how do I say this? It's kind of like when it made me feel like when family kind of how do I say this? Like when people that you consider family, they kind of at the time that they should be covering you most, you feel like they didn't. And you're like, no disrespect to whatever y'all trying to cover or whoever you're trying to cover over here, but like, you know me. Like, I'm not saying they're saying disrespect this person or come at this person a certain way, but like, you know me though. It's almost like when somebody, talks about somebody that you know, and instead of saying stop right there, that's not who they are, you just kind of let them talk, and then you tell your friend, and they pretty much like, okay, so what did you say? Like, you know me, like, I don't roll like that. Like, you should have told them that's not who they are. You know what I mean? So yeah. And I think sometimes we take the scripture about like not being honored in our own home, like we make things really extra now. So we make it seem like the not honored in the own home always means like disrespect, ready to throw hands. Like sometimes it's just like you just feel like honored in a home, on your own home or own country is like, okay, you not really willing to see things from my side because you only see me as this person at this age, at this stage in their life. You know what I mean? And like I said, I'm trying to choose my words carefully because I don't want to do too much. But it's one of those things where it's like you said, bro, like creating boundaries, but also, you know, hoping at some point it's like I'm not I'm not little Brandon no more that was always next to his mom. Like that's just not, I haven't been that in a while. I hadn't been that since I was about 19 or 18, probably since I graduated high school, honestly. And even that's a stretch because again, at a certain age, you have to see somebody as a person, like as their own person. So, you know, again, I love them all. I love the people, places, and things. Like I'm not the. It's not the kind of disdain where you know, every time they're brought up, I got this whole sob story. Like that's not me. That's not me. Um, but it's definitely one of those things where I I want things to be cool. Not saying that they're not, but at the same time, it's like don't see or respect me as where I am now just because of where I am now. Like I feel like that should be something that should have been there. You know what I mean? So I'm just on the line of like really forgiving and not holding things against people because I'm not necessarily hold up. I'm not necessarily the person that's gonna like hold grudges, but I'm definitely the person where I'll be like, I remember that. I remember that. I remember exactly how that ended. I remember the things that was said. I remember the things, I remember how things were handled. You feel me? Like I'm that person. You know what I mean? So I'm on a road to just forgiving for me. So that way when I if I do eventually want to come around, I don't feel a pit in my stomach like, oh my gosh. Because I'm not gonna lie, it's moments where I wanted to come around, but I'm just like, bro, I don't know if I got this. I don't know if I have this in me. You know what I mean? So it's just weird. It's weird. It's weird. Cause like I said, it's been a minute. Like the Saturday was probably the first time where I felt like I really like was really around. Like like it's really been a minute. So like I feel like that was probably the Lord speaking to me. Cause again, like ever since I left Saturday, I couldn't stop thinking about it. That's my church, like that's my foundation, like that's my church family. Like I would never act like it was like something that just was a thing in the past. Like, nah, like that's my home church, you know? And my only thing is, like you said, bro, holding, boundaries, just let them know, like, I love everybody. I love y'all, but I just need y'all to realize that like I'm not I'm not there. Like I'm 33. I know that you're used to, a certain thing, you know, but nah. Certain things I'm just and I could say some other things, but again, it ain't about that. But I just sometimes a lot of things are just again honor, and the word honor is really just another word for respect. Yeah, bro. Yeah, bro. Like that's kind of a lot of time. It's just a respect thing. You know what I mean? And again, sometimes it comes down to okay, when the time came for X, Y, and Z to happen, like how did you treat that person? How did you treat that situation? How did you handle a decision that was made? Because a lot of times people don't remember, they may not remember the exact situation, but they'll remember how it was handled. They remember how they were handled. You know what I mean? So I just think that, on this road to forgiving and forgiving freely now, like not forgiving and being like, but really, addressing, why I feel the way I feel. Because a lot of times I feel like forgiving, in order to forgive, you have to honestly address what you're forgiving. Because moving on to the next thing is not really forgiving. That's just you're just moving on. You're just relocating. You're just avoiding. So that's me. I want to forgive. I want to forgive. And hopefully the Lord directs me to talk to somebody about it. But for people that really know me, I'm really a closed off person. So if I'm gonna tell you stuff, if I'm gonna be trusting you to tell you, I gotta really like trust you. Like I really gotta feel like okay, you know, like I don't want to feel like I'm gonna have to regret what I'm telling you. You know what I mean? So that's just yeah. And sometimes you'll have to forgive. without expressing to that person why you feel the way you feel. Now that's going to be something that, you know, that's going to be something, because a lot of times I feel like it's real maturity to forgive even if you don't get the apology, even if you don't get, the reconciliation that you have thought of in your mind, or even if they don't ask you what's wrong, or even if they don't give you the explanation that you're looking for. I think that that's something that's a, that's a mature forgiver, because a lot of times there's going to be times where you have to forgive, and they may not even know what's wrong. They may not even understand why you feel the way you feel, but you got to forgive anyway. So that's my message to people. Forgive anyway. Forgive anyway. Because the last thing you want to do is be that person that it's like, again, you may not be holding a grudge, but you're holding a thought in your head about something that was done, and they're just kind of just, oh, we love you. And then your whole time you're just like, yeah, whatever. Forgive anyway. Again, even without the apology, even without the explanation, even without, you know, the conversation being had, even without the come to Jesus, forgive anyway. This is a good TED talk. I appreciate it. That was heavy. That was heavy. I needed that. So, to those of you on Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, thanks for joining my live. Talk about comparison. Don't let it consume you. Don't let it distract you from who you're called to, what you're called to, who you are, what's in you, and forgive anyway. Your purpose depends on it, for real. How you how you treat others depends on it, and how you handle others, and how you even view others, even if they're doing right by you. Your ability to forgive anyway affects them too. So again, thanks for joining my live. Next week we're going to talk about church money, investing in yourself as a creative, being disciplined in your investments, in your saving, in your spending. Just going to give some wisdom, and I'll see you guys next week, same time. I'm out. Love.